We're here in All Hallows Church, down Ampney in Gloucestershire, which is a regimental church for the Air Dispatch Association and Capability. 85 years ago, just about a mile behind us, we had one of the largest Royal Air Force stations centred here in Gloucestershire. So down Ampney Airfield would have been one of the major logistic and resupply bases for Operation Market Garden in Arnhem 1944 and before that in Normandy 44. It's a beautiful church. We're very lucky to have it as part of our regimental history. Every year we have a number of services, one of which of course is Remembrance Sunday, which is coming up this week, and we'll be in here in this beautiful church to commemorate Remembrance. And there are a number of things that sort of bind us to this church, not only the proximity to Royal Air Force down Ampney, but actually that we have a stained glass window to my right which depicts primarily David Lord's VC. So David Lord was a flight lieutenant who was flying a Dakota DC-3 on a resupply mission across the fields around Oosterbeek and Arnhem in 1944. The aircraft was hit by enemy fire and was seen by both the Germans and the British as a real symbol of the battle, in that rather than deciding to break away from the mission that he was flying, which was resupplying the ground forces, he continued to circle across the drop zone in order to put out his resupply loads. There are pictures, both photographs of the day and clearly post-war commemorative paintings, which clearly show David Lord just continued with his mission even though it was a forlorn hope. His aircraft was fully on fire, and at the back of the aircraft you can see in some of the wartime pictures air dispatchers continue to deliver the resupply loads which are so badly needed by the beleaguered forces on the ground. Unfortunately, David Lord lost his life. The aircraft was in the end overcome by the flames and the aircraft sort of crashed. 4 air dispatchers managed to parachute out of the back, 3 of which survived, and one euphemistically titled Lucky Jim continued to survive even though he broke his legs on the day. I think for me personally, I've been on an individual journey. I joined the army in the sort of mid-1980s, so long ago, served about 40 years in uniform from beginning to end. And my attitudes to remembrance have changed and they've matured during that time. Strangely, I think in the very, very early days when I was a young man, I just found it somehow quite exciting seeing all these old gentlemen and ladies with their medals. But I would reflect now that having sort of been out of the military now for 4 years, remembrance feels far more pertinent than it perhaps did when I was in service, because when you're in service you're just part of this organisation that's delivering either an event or a church service, and there's lots to think about. But actually when you don't have a lot to think about, you only are thinking about remembrance, it becomes a very, very personal thing. And I personally, I remember all those soldiers that I've served with, young and old. Sadly, we've lost a few over the years, and they are particularly well remembered. And of course events like this allow us to be very personal with our thoughts, but in a collective way. It's something that affects everybody, and I do think the way that the UK commemorates its Remembrance Day is something really special. Having been around the world, it's not like this everywhere, and I think there is a genuine level of appropriate respect for those people who do what they do in service of the country, and I think long may it go on in that way.